Major report in regards to climate, which you may not have heard a lot about here in certain media publications, certainly not from anyone within the Albanese government, but it is creating a lot of interest in the climate change debate. This has been released by the US Department of Energy, and it's called A Critical Review of Impacts of Greenhouse Gas Emissions on the US Climate. Now, the critical thing about this report is by no means is it disputing that climate change is occurring, but it does contest just how severe climate change is, just how extreme it is. And if you read it, you have to wonder some of the language that we've heard in the last month that we've discussed on this program in regards to catastrophic events and, you know, the idea that millions of people that live in coastal towns in decades ahead are going to be uninsurable and potentially underwater. This is a very common sense report, and I think it's the kind of thing that we should be looking at. Instead, Australia's gone in the exact opposite direction.
And good on Adam Crichton at The Australian, and of course he's the chief economist at the IPA now as well. There was an extract in The Australian today of a paper that he's written for the IPA review, which comes out next month, picking apart this report and comparing it to the IPCC, which is the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And it's written by genuine climate scientists, so you can't just say this is, you know, some lackey that Trump's gone to say, go and write a report that tells me what I wanted to say. These are genuine climate scientists. And what they're questioning is the level of climate change that is caused by human beings.
That's right.
And basically saying that, yes, there is human-caused climate change, but in all the modelling that has been done over the last 50 to 60 odd years, there's been far more weight put on the human element than on the natural element. And no one's really taken the time to work out how much of an increase in temperatures in the world has just been a natural shift in temperatures. And when it comes to extreme weather, they found that, in fact, almost every marker of extreme weather has decreased, and the weather has become more consistent since the 1950s. There's been no statistically significant trend in hurricanes since 1920. Severe tornadoes, there's been a noticeable downward trend since the 1950s, they found. Heat waves and droughts, they found in the United States, were at their worst in the 1930s. But no one talks about that. I mean, the melting of polar ice caps stopped in 2007. And in fact, the polar ice caps have been expanding since then. So all the markers that you can look at show that things aren't as bad as we're often told they are. And perhaps the level of human-caused climate change is vastly overstated.
Yeah, and the other thing the report looks at is the potential upsides from climate change, which infamously in the Senate estimates hearing a couple of months ago, Matt Canavan exposed how our government, in their whole modelling of climate change, had not considered the positive benefits. And what they actually show is that the Earth has gotten greener over the last 30 years. Agricultural yields have improved because of increased CO2 in the atmosphere. More land will become arable because of warmer temperatures. And so then you go, okay, we know that humans are not the only contributor to climate change by any means. We know the US in this instance, but certainly Australia, are only a small contributor to climate change. And we know there are plenty of upsides to it. So at what price are we willing to pay to try and bring down emissions or stop climate change? And this report basically concludes the US, and this is one example they gave, they could remove all combustion engine vehicles from US roads and switch to EVs tomorrow, and it would only delay the impacts of climate change by about a year at tremendous cost. So it's crazy.
And I think we need to remember, if you go back to Australia and look at the report that we analysed on this show a few weeks ago, which has been cherry-picked basically from a range of other reports and taking the most alarmist scenarios about insurance, impacts on life, impacts on coastal towns and everything else. And you consider Australia's contribution, which is 1%, and then you consider the fact, how much is this going to cost? We don't know, because the government has signed dozens of secret deals to build and basically go at 1 million miles an hour to build wind, solar and batteries across the country. We have no idea how much this is going to cost. But what we do know is that no matter what we do, it is not going to have any impact on the environment yet. There are Australians, sadly, that do believe that, and Labor has been pushing that narrative very irresponsibly, in my view.
Yeah.